Okay, so moving on to the nose bay. Here are the main pieces, and just a fun note here, C5, which forms one of the walls of the bay, has these two pieces, D6 and D7, that slot into it, little accessory pieces. Great, okay? So here we've got C5 with D6 attached. Cool, that works. I'm just going to ignore the ejector pin, recessed ejector pin mark there. And I'm going to look at this part D7. So, you know, nothing special, right? Just a little box. Okay. Flip it over, and it's got these two posts. One of them is sort of a gibbous moon looking thing, which aligns nicely right here. This other thing, I don't know what the hell it is. I mean, it doesn't look like one of their ejector pins. It's too uniform. So it's just a hole that's there for no reason. So we're going to trim that bastard off. Because why is it even there? Nobody knows. We're going to go ahead and glue D7 in here. It's not the only glorious thing going on in this bay. So over here we've got, you see these little pieces attached to the sides. Well, they're called out in the instructions as D20 and 25 and D26 and D19. Unfortunately, they got these swapped. So if you're going to build this kit, which I salute your bravery, you want to put D26 and D19 on C14 because they're backwards. So that's that. We're about to put this thing together and see what kind of house of cards we're looking at, or whether or not it actually holds together on its own decently. But also note, if you look at the way that the nose gear comes together here, it looks like with these sort of brackets here that we might be able to drop this in after the fact, which would be nice because nobody wants nose gear installed in their aircraft when they are in the middle of painting and sanding and all that good stuff. So let's see how this fits together. So we've got sidewall. Yeah, see, it's nice when the pieces interlock, and they don't interlock here. They don't interlock in most nose bays, honestly. This piece D107 in the middle here, this little triangle thing, it's kind of a support for the main landing gear. Slots into these little things. I'm going to hope that that thing can serve as a location aid while we get the other stuff installed. No promises, though. So the C4 part goes into the back. Nice ejector pin marker right in the middle of detail again. Let's see if I got the, there we go. How about that? That piece actually fits nicely. So let's lock it in. We're going to move up to the front here with this C5 piece. All right. Ta-da! Now it's time to investigate that alongside the front fuselages and see if we can actually pull off this hole, drop the nose gear in later or not. So just a quick aside here. The sprue gate on the lip of the intake. Awesome, guys. Also all the flash. I love flash. think what's missing from kits today is a proper amount of flash. Force the modeler to work for it and clean it up, right? Yeah. Shut up, compressor. Uh-oh. This is making me think I might need to grind down the edges of the cockpit to deal with some of the ejector pin marks going on there. I'll do that in a few minutes. So another thing to note as we're cleaning this up, we've got more locator pins and holes and more of these little slat things. Including, I love when companies do this, you've got the slat thing right next to the sprue gate. Couldn't have moved it like right here. That's just lame. Okay, so we're going to do a quick test fit of just these pieces first, see how they come together. So it looks like there's flash on the nose. Flash back here. Otherwise, it kind of, it goes. All right, before we do anything else, I just want to see. Hey, look at that. Thumbs up, guys. I'm going to assume that flash is playing a role in that shitty fit. But still. Great. That's one to look forward to. All right. Okay, so now that we've got the gear bay assembled, we're going to double check that we can actually fit it in here and install the nose gear into these little slots when the time comes. So this is a bit frustrating because it's got these are actually for the tongue slot things that hold the bottom fuselage together, so they kind of help locate this, but only kind of. There's nothing to keep it from slipping off to the side, which is awesome for this kind of operation. So, thank you for that, Kitty Hawk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just drop it in there. And it looks like it should fit. It's just a matter of getting it just precisely. God damn it. Alright. There we go. That's locked and loaded, so I am going to go ahead and some glue there to hold that sucker. This is always going to be fun. Put some MEK on the micro brush. Basically want to ensure that we're locking this in, holding it as well as we can, so that when we come back to glue it for real up in here, we don't have to worry about this alignment all over again, especially because we're going to have not only the gear bay and the cockpit to deal with, but also the shock cone up front. So that's a lot of different moving pieces going on that are going to need to fit nicely in here. So we're going to let this glue dry and then I'll come back. Okay, so while the glue is setting up with the gear bay, I went ahead and did a test fit of the cockpit as well. Here we go, the cockpit is in place, so I'm going to go ahead while I'm in here and tack this down. I think this will help a lot with providing some structural support to that poor gear bay, because as opposed to just having that one little measly mating surface down here that you can see, this way we can get that big mating surface where it joins with the cockpit floor, plus we've got some side linkages over here. So sorry, I'm trying to keep this visible, but at the same time I've got a seat of glue shit. And this is a tube, so basically I'm dropping glue down here, letting it do the work, sticking to the starboard side. I have to, this way I can pull it back apart when I need to. Which I'm going to need to clean up some of this flash and to install the shot cone and all that good stuff. Alright, so we've got this, and I'm going to grab some tape. This thing wants to fly apart. And so here is where the cockpit's looking so far. There's nose bay down there. A little bit more tape, don't we? Alright, so for giggles, I wanted to try something now. So this is the forward fuselage. The mid and rear fuselage. I've seen better joins in my day, but you know, we've got what looks like some very obvious flash here, so I'm here to see what happens if we knock down the really bad flash. All right, let's see if that fixes things or makes it worse. Can you believe, I mean, this one back here, the butt joint is bullshit, but you know, this little tiny lip isn't much better. But at least this one more or less lines up, I guess. Sort of. Bueller. Alright. So we know that that will at least generally fit. Let's try the tail while we're back here. Hey, look at that. That does fit. I'll buy that for $1. Okay, so to wrap up night 2, we've gotten the rear and mid fuselage pieces together. We've got the speed brakes installed. The engine is in here, the wonderfully shitty engine. This butt joint is bullshit. Got the tail, mostly good. This little bullet piece here was annoying, but you know, for the most part the tail's decent. Tail actually fits, you know, it's a bit wobbly, but it fits nicely into its little recess here. I've seen better, I've seen worse. It's not anything to really complain about. At the front end, we've finally pulled the front fuselage halves off the sprue. Built the nose gear bay and installed it. Mostly we've basically tacked it on one side. In here we've got these two little slots where the nose gear will be able to drop in towards the end of the build, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, you've still got these little essentially door actuators that are sticking out of the bottom of the fuselage, which could cause some problems. We've also got the cockpit installed. The cockpit fits pretty nicely. I'm assuming the windscreen is going to cover up the gaps in the coaming here. Still, I'm kind of worried if you can, look out the front of this thing and see daylight, what's going to happen when the shot cone goes in. Anyway, they are welded together deep in there, so they will hold each other tight and snug and do what they need to do fit-wise. And then when you compare the fit of these two, it's... I've seen worse, I guess, like this joint back here, but this is still shoddy. There has to be a better way than a little lip that just kind of sort of sits there. This seems like the least elegant option possible from an engineering standpoint. But maybe I'll be singing a different tune when the whole thing goes together. Okay, so we are moving on to the shot cone. And after a little bit of parts cleanup, these guys can come together, in theory. So, again, this is just the frustration of Kitty Hawk. You've got these little grooves here, these little tongues here. You would think that that would, ensure they go together, but look at that slippage. That's just ridiculous. So what I'm going to do is set it on the ground. Oh, the bench, not the ground. I'm going to let gravity help me out here. I've also got this clear window in here, which I'm curious to see how this actually ends up fitting. As in typical Kitty Hawk fashion, good mating surfaces are non-existent. This is great. It's right here in the instructions. Just drop it on there. No big deal, right? I'm seeing nothing like that on here. What I am seeing is, potentially, see if you see up in there, you see that little flat part? Is it possible all the rest of this is flash? Flash where it's super easy to ream out, of course. This little tiny space. It doesn't fit because of sprue gate issues. Poor connection point planning. Shut up, compressor. It doesn't fit because there's flash all over the place. All right. Oh, damn it. All right. We're going to get us some gator's grip here. One toothpick. And I gotta say, that looks kind of nasty. When you were signing on to watch this video, didn't you think it'd be fun to watch me fiddle with a little clear piece here for 5 minutes? Alright, I think we've got it. Kind of. So, all good there. Now we get to test fit it in the fuselage. Okay. So we've got fuselage, we've got shock cone. So, interesting. All right, so I want to explore this a little bit. On the instructions, as you can see right here, these pieces have this little sort of circle crescent thing here, and these two tabs on either side. And those go into the fuselage, blah, blah, blah. Well, the only mating surface in the fuselage, you can see way down in here, are those little sort of circle, semicircle things, which, as you can tell, really help to locate the shock cone. Nice. So I think the best way to go here is probably to go ahead and weld that guy in again on the same side that everything else is being welded in on. Then come back, because the well, I'm going to want to clean up that nose first, because flash and sprue remains. But still, you can see right in there, like, why do they have the tabs if they're just going to have the circle? So let's load this in a second time. Alright, so we've got... This is actually the best fitting piece in the entire aircraft so far. This section fits up quite nicely. And so what I'm going to do in here now is kind of what I've been doing so far with the other things that are in the middle of the fuselage. Alright, I'm just going to leave this like this to dry for a few minutes, and I'm going to wonder why they didn't put tabs in there instead of the circles that allow it to flop all over the place. Okay, so we're back now, and the shock cone has been glued in place right there. Now, something that's been discussed a bit, by the way, lovely locating of the engine back there. Anyway, something that's been discussed ad nauseum on the internet today has been, why not glue these things longitudinally and then bring them together? Well, as you saw when I was putting this piece together, the curvature of the rear doesn't match up to the midsection, and a jig to make that work, especially with no joining provisions here, would have been pretty interesting. Granted, I believe it could be possible for sure. I mean, it's definitely an approach, probably a better one than I took. I don't know that it would save you all that much heartache, but, you know, I think it might have been worth a shot. Anyway, what I'm going to look at now is what if we were to join these longitudinally. So, come in here. And this side seems okay. Ish. Let's flip it around. Try this side. As you can see, the front section here does have a little lip that mounts into a little lip on this. So they actually do have lip service to a connection point. And so it's certainly possible to do it this way here. But at the same time, you know, I mean, I'm still seeing that nice nasty gap there. Something I'm going to try here real fast is, what if we shave this down a little bit more than it is? Because there's some, you know, greebly little bits down in here. Again, thank you so much, Kitty Hawk, for the nice clean join area. We've also got, and you can see up in here, this thing hiding out. Anyway, this is much preferable to what they have going on in the rear and the mid fuselage, where there is literally zero provision for how these things go together. At least this thing has this little lip that we can play with. And so once we clean that up, what have we got? That's a little better. I mean, it's still ugly. I mean, it doesn't really seem like it's sticking anywhere either. I mean, it's just, that's the join. Now, if we bring all this together, try it this way. Honestly, I feel like that's just about identical to what we had going on the other way. I don't see much difference. You're still talking a nasty line up there. You're still talking a nasty line around here. But at least the top would be decent, you know, better than nothing. A lot of this line will be hidden, of course, by the wings and by the center spine up here. So I am, even though it's possible to glue these side by side and keep going from there, I mean, I think I can have better grip and better working conditions if I just glue this and then I glue it to the back. So we're going to do that. And because there's already a pretty nice smooth line back here, and this one doesn't matter all that much, that's where I am going to start. I'm going to use MEK so we can be a bit impatient. And this whole section here will be hidden by the dorsal spine. Then on the underside, make sure we got a good smooth thing going on here. What I'm going to do on the underside is I'm going to hit it from inside. Until I can't reach. I'll use a little bit of Tamiya extra thin up here by the landing gear, by the landing bay. Landing gear bay, not the landing bay. Jesus, Matt. Hold that for a minute or two. While that's drying, we can go ahead and inspect around the edges here and see if there's any other little places where this stuff is holding up, and it doesn't look like it. And the lip looks pretty decent from here. See a little step. Get rid of that guy. All right, I think we're looking pretty good there. Let's move up front. Now we're going to go ahead and move to the bottom and get this one done. Again, I hate these tongue joint things. They're just the worst because they do not control, broken record I know, but they do not control up and down movement, which has been honestly the thing plaguing the fit of a lot of the pieces on this kit since the moment I started it. And if you look down in there, look how visible that is. That's kind of ridiculous, huh? Up there too. I think that one down low is the worst because you can, you know, from a normal angle that you might take a picture of the aircraft at. Yeah, it's there, it's right there. All right, now comes the fun part. Bringing these bastards together. Now I'm going to try something here. I doubt it will work. Just maybe. I'm hesitant to get ahead of myself and start building the wings, but just maybe I can use them to my advantage here. That might actually be a great helpful tool. Let's zoom out so you can see it a little better. That's going to actually really probably help a lot with location. Well, it kind of holds it a little bit. At least means I can hold it one-handed. And we're just going to do the good old solvent dance. Let's go and get the underside in there too. Let's get the whole thing playing along. And we just I mean, this thing is not perfect, but it's much, much better than the aft join there. I think in large part because the MEK has things it can grab onto and really weld together, so you can actually kind of fill these gaps in a little bit. Not all the way, but at least a little bit. Sweet. And with that, fuselage is together. All right. Where do we go from here? We start looking at the spine. I'm not adding the windscreen yet, sorry. So C2, this is actually pretty interesting. C2 looks like, oh, it's not. I got all excited there. I thought we would have a support piece to hold things up, but we don't. That's just the piece that goes right there. So we've got C2, kind of the, we'll call it the mid spine, right? We've got the forward spine here, A4, A5. And we've got the aft spine and the tail. So I'm going to build this as an M4 because the M4 seems more common. E17 and D16. What do you want to bet that that's actually E16 and it's just they put D on there because they didn't know what they were doing? All right. So let's find our good friend C2. So, the disappointment parade continues. This is C2, okay? Nice and easy. Where do they put the sprue gate? Right here, right next to this mounting tab. You've got all the space between them to put something. Or God forbid, put it back here. You know, they like putting these things over onto these sort of mating surfaces. Put it in here where it's easy to remove and will hurt nobody. So you put it right next to the goddamn tab. I guess it's a good thing there are 4 tabs, so at least you've got some redundancy here, but it just seems like a dick move to me. Jesus. All right, I'm just going to cut the tab off. That's ridiculous. Oh, there's flash too? Of course there is. Why wouldn't there be? And we've got enough play in this that I'm going to leave this unglued until we can get the other pieces of that dorsal spine together. So I figure I can talk about this now because by the time this video gets posted, it'll already be out there and in the world. But the past few months now, Bear's Tanzoy of Tan Model has been corresponding with me about a new project they're doing, a 1/32nd scale Su-33 Sea Flanker. And, you know, aside from just the sheer scale of that project being pretty damn cool, a lot of their engineering approaches are really interesting. You know, for example, the nose cone, they're setting it up so that you actually glue it away from the natural nose parting line. So that way they can mold that parting line nice and pretty onto the kit. And then if you fuck up the install, you've got all kinds of space to putty and sand and clean up without destroying detail. I mean, how ingenious is that? Such a little thing. And yet there they are. So here's another one of these ejector pins in a hole that you're going to need to use later. Because assholes. But anyway, the reason I bring up Tan Model and the Su-33 is they are planning with that kit to do the industry's largest single piece intakes. And so when I look at the silliness going on here, where you have sprue gates and ejector pins in the most asinine of locations, and you're cutting up a dorsal spine into 5 pieces to go on top of a 6-piece fuselage that is a tube. You know, I look over at what Tan Model is doing with that Su-33. I look at what HK did with their Mosquito, which, you know, bash the wings all you want. They put together a freaking 1-piece wing for a 1/32 scale Mosquito. They put together a 2-piece front and aft fuselage where you literally join it over the wings and it fits perfectly. If they can do that, how is this even a challenge? From a molding perspective. And on the internets today, somebody had a pretty good thought about that where, you know, maybe Kitty Hawk just doesn't give a fuck. Maybe what they're doing is they're just whipping out CADs and contracting them out and saying, here, make a model kit, and not even really bothering to check how it's designed. And so you take it from that to production without test shots, without test builds, you know, without those chances to fix these just idiotic mistakes. And then they get out into the wild and they're wrong and they're poorly thought out. But there's this sort of mentality in the modeling world where if you can't actually build these things on your own, it must be your fault because you're not a true modeler, or, you know, you're unskilled, or you're all talk, etc. It has, you know, it is never, ever the company's fault. It just baffles me. You know, if you were to buy a car that, you know, driving down the street, the door would suddenly fly open, and, you know, at lights, half the time that you went, the transmission would just throw itself into reverse for no reason. That would be a subject of a recall. The manufacturer would just eat it for that, and you wouldn't see Car and Driver and Motor Trend coming out and saying, you must not be using your driving skills. And so, you know, that's not too bad. It could be a lot better. It's a mindset that just baffles me. You know, different modelers have different talents and different abilities and different experience levels. Some people love the challenge of sanding off ejector pins and fighting with a tough kit. I get that. That's fine. But that doesn't change the essential nature of this is a bag of plastic in a box. And it's either going to go together well or it's not. There's no real middle ground there. And I just wish that as a hobby, we could separate out the builder from the actual kit itself, or the builder or the painter from the paint itself, and just look at these things with a bit more emotional distance. But, yeah, right, huh? That's going to happen anytime soon. Okay, so we're good here for now. So I need to get E17 and E16. Even though it says D, look at that. There's E16 right there. Funny. All right. I don't know what I would do without these side cutters. I've got like 3 pairs. Strangely, my Gundam Planet ones seem to have been having some trouble. It's like they got like the metal in them has gone dull. So I've been using the Tamiya ones again because they're kind of like Iwata airbrush needles. They're just, I think they're forged out of like samurai steel or something. Never seem to go dull. I just drop them and bend them. All right. So this is also stupid. We're all about stupid around here. Shut up, compressor. You're stupid too. Alright, so here we have another awesome problem. Look at that step. Brilliant. So the adventures continue. This thing will not sit down. Why? Because it interferes directly with the back cockpit firewall. Nice. And that's not the easiest removal I've ever seen either. I mean, look at donk, donk, donk. Okay, so dealing with this thing is going to be a pain in the ass because there's not a lot of room to move in here. But we've got to remove a certain amount of it. And there's not, like, you can't get in there and cut. I think a file might be our answer to this mess. If we can get in here and How's this for fun, huh? All right. Let's see if we've made any dent in the fit of this POS. Looks like we're still not there. We've still got interference going on. We're closer though. All right. Okay, so between the file and the chisel, I managed to get this section kind of beaten back. And what that means is, we get up here to this guy, it actually sits down on top of it now. But we run into this problem back here of these posts being too tall. So I'm going to trim them down a little bit. And then we're going to rinse and repeat on the other side. Shut up, compressor. All right. Let's give this a shot again. Take two from the top. Yeah, that's much better up there. That it almost actually fits. We're still looking a little bit sloppy here in the back though. There we go. So it actually does kind of fit. Like that. Kind of. Alright, now let's get the other side fixed up. Alright, we're back, and these guys have been ground out. And they now fit on top of the cockpit headrest, or the back wall of the cockpit. I'm not a big fan of how visible those tabs are. I don't know what we can do about it though. Anyway, time to start gluing together the dorsal spine. All right. Part 1. That guy sits there. Motherfucker. So this is not the greatest fit, but it's going in. These damn tabs. Still not happy at all about the tab thing there. That's where you would have to put some filler. And put some tape here to hold this bastard down. Now let's see about back here. Whoever designed these tabs can literally go fuck themselves. Poorly designed pieces of shit. I think maybe if I trim just a little bit off. Still get some use out of them without sacrificing the location ability altogether. It's annoying though, they sit on one side just fine. And on the other side they don't at all. Because they don't line up. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. So I've been sitting here so I've been sitting here wondering why this piece is just fitting so poorly here. Why it seems to be like bouncing, right? Because it just does not want to sit down, and then push too hard it slips. It just won't do it. Why? Look in here. You see that flat piece? That flat piece that's going over a curve? Jesus Christ. don't even know how they... I mean, I guess if I hack those center sections out just enough, it'll give me some purchase and I can do what I want to do. Hey, look at that. Crazy, huh? How that shit works out. And then back here we've got L tail that has to go in. And that's not pretty, but it's not terrible, I guess. This side's terrible. And part of this is absolutely there's a step in the fuselage that is not helping at all, but come on. I cannot believe, I literally cannot believe that there was a flat part in there and that was what was fucking everything up. Wow. All right, now that we've got the the spine in place, how about a quick overview of what all happened here? So, start at the front. Up here we have the back of the cockpit that interfered with the top dorsal spine section. We had to chisel and file out parts to make that fit. We had these tabs that show up when you glue the thing in, which is just brilliant, right? Over here as well, and those had to be shaved down in order to fit. We had the center section, which had the awesome sprue gate on top of one of the mounting tabs. We had this back section, which was just super special. So we've already got a little step in the fuselage from the nightmare process of joining the rear to the middle sections, which is going to necessitate, you know, if we were actually building this for real, would necessitate putty right here. We'd also have to clean up this section right there at the tail. There's a little tiny step, nothing too bad. I think honestly some quick sanding could probably fix that. The problem is we've got rivet detail in here that would be blown out of the water. This piece had flat straight across bracing inside, which doesn't work over a curved surface. All of which joins up kind of in a silly fashion. We still have a little tiny bit of joining left to do. This piece right here needs some solvent on it to help it. Fucking moths. Sorry, I just had a moth buzz my face because it's February in Texas and it was 87 degrees today. Nice winter afternoon. Anyway, I'm sure that I will get down further and find that there was something that was supposed to go inside of here or something like that. There's nothing in the instructions, but you know, I trust those so much all the time. So that is the dorsal spine. I think now might be an interesting time to see how the windscreen fits. Now let's see if this actually fits. I found that, you know, at least on other Kitty Hawk kits, there seemed to be this weird mix of shit that fits and shit that does not fit. honestly can't tell which one this is. It kind of sits in a weird... It's like there's not really a way to support it in here. Always a fan of using MEK for, to me, extra thin, sorry, for windscreens whenever possible. Hear that moth banging around one of the garage lights. Those bastards. Oh, windscreen, you gotta hold to something here. I don't like this weird cavity that this thing sits in, though. It doesn't look right. Pry it up just a little bit. So there's the windscreen installed. Decent. I could see needing putty up here to blend these parts in, which is great because there's all kinds of detail here that you're already going to have to destroy anyway to clean up that fuselage seam. So we're pretty close to being through with step 10. So I think what I'm going to do is power through this for the most part. So what have we got left? We've got, well, we've done this stuff. We haven't done D61. We haven't done D67 and D66. And I'm going to save this E39 part for later, as well as the E6, E7. So we're just going to do the Ds. Let's start with D61. I see a little bit of a mold seam on this part. It's the bane of every plastic kit. It's mold seams. Alright, got that sucker cleaned up. This guy, I kept a little sprue tab there so I could actually have a way to hold it. I've got some flash on the front of the scoop here. Alright, that doesn't look too shabby. Nothing like precariously gripping a round piece. This piece isn't much better. I'm going to see if maybe I can place this one and then just capillary it. It might be able to do just that. All right. So We're done with evening 3 of the Happy Fun Time Su-17 build, so I'm going to flip it around and blab at the camera for a moment. Okay, so wrapping up the third night of building, we've made more progress on the Su-17 here. Key points are, we got the whole front end kind of wrapped up here. We got the shock cone installed, windscreen, front fuselage to the rest of it, dorsal spine and tail. So it's starting to look like a fitter. But man, this kit, I think whether or not somebody would enjoy this kit has to do with modeling preferences in general. This is a thing that seems to be dismissed a lot, where some people like the challenge of tackling a kit that is poorly thought out, and that's their thing. There are other people who prefer a kit that goes together without too much trouble so they can get to the painting. That's me. I am much more a fan of that. I will fight a kit that is challenged, but the thing is, if I'm going to fight a kit that's challenged, I want it to be like the MRC AH1W that I'm going to start building before too much longer. It's just an older kit, and it's not that great. And so there are some struggles inherent with that, but it's a product of its time. This thing is brand new and has a lot of problems. And the problems are almost all of its own making, and they're, you know, just slipshod engineering, a complete lack of fucks in terms of how the kit actually lays out. And I think because of that, there's a lack of, I would say, passion in actually making a great model from Kitty Hawk, and that is what turns me off so much. It's the looking at this kit and realizing they could have done so much better in so many different areas. So just to name a few, the shock cone up here has these little tab / pin things that stick out and jab into the fuselage and locate it, which is nice. You know, I would prefer a thing that sets up a base and then you can install the shock cone at the end of the build. You know, like maybe some sort of ring, and then it just right in there. But I get it. A lot of companies do this. Edward does this. Trumpeter does this. If it's a MiG with a shock cone, that's kind of the standard operating procedure. The thing I don't get is, why do they have this sort of like tab with the half circle in the middle of it if they're just going to have circles inside here, and that's what it mounts to, and that's it. And as you saw when we were building it, it flops freely up and down. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. That makes no sense to me. You would think maybe instead of doing that, maybe make it like a rectangle, and it locks that shock cone in at the right angle, because I'm pretty sure, I mean, I'm not the most knowledgeable on the Su-17, but I'm pretty sure that the shock cone goes in and out to regulate airflow. It doesn't flop up and down. You know, other fun things, the dorsal spine, the part that mates over the cockpit here, had plastic right in the way of where it's supposed to go and wouldn't fit because of that. So we had to bust out, you know, the micro chisel, the file, and essentially just make it fit. This centerpiece here of the spine had a sprue gate on top of, and like overlapping with one of the mounting tabs. This one had bracing pieces inside that just ran straight across. Doesn't really work when you're mounting it onto a curving surface, so we had to cut that back. Even then, the fit on the dorsal spine, you know, you can see here, it's not the best. I mean, it's passable with cleanup. It can be done, but you know, I'm reminded of the conversations I've been having with Barris Tanzo of Tan Model recently about the Su-33 they're doing, and you know, the fact that like it's going to have single piece intakes. You know, it's going to have, instead of these, you know, you can see right here, you can see where all these things join up along rivet lines. Well, Tan Model is doing a thing where they're avoiding that, so maybe instead of if it had to join here, they would set it up right here where there's nothing. So that way you can glue it in place, putty the hell out of it, clean it up, and all that detail is still there. Kitty Hawk obviously has not done that. You know, the engineering is there to make this entire thing, this entire dorsal spine from up here all the way back to the tail. The engineering is there to make it one piece. You know, if HK can make a one-piece mosquito wing, if they can make a two-piece fuselage that joins front and aft and has no, you know, no gaps, no proud areas, it just fits, that's totally doable. I guess just not by Kitty Hawk. So it's more of an it's more of a exercise in frustration building this, seeing, you know, this pretty nice surface detail, and just thinking what could have been if they had taken, you know, I don't know, an extra 3 or 4 weeks and just done a QA pass and realized this is stupid, that's stupid, maybe we could do this a better way. I mean, that's what it comes down to ultimately with all of these kits, whether it's Tamiya, Trumpeter, Tan Model, Kitty Hawk, whoever it is. Yeah, it's a business, but designing these things is also, you know, there's love involved with it. There's care, there's passion. And in some kits you see it. You see it in Wingnut Wings kits. You see it in Tan Model kits. You see it in most Tamiya kits, especially their big 132nd ones. Like, somebody lost sleep thinking about how piece A would fit to piece B, would then fit to piece C. I don't get the sense that happened here. And to me, that is what's really dragging me about Kitty Hawk in general and about this kit in particular. Such a great subject choice, you know, rarely tackled, rarely done. Lots of interesting markings, lots of countries it served with. You know, kudos on the subject choice. That's never been Kitty Hawk's problem. It's the execution. So I think, to me, if I had to make an analogy, it's like the Star Wars prequels, right? Star Wars is great. Everybody loves Star Wars, except for like a few freaks out there. The prequels have a pretty solid foundation for a story. How did Anakin Skywalker fall to the dark side? But the execution is just lacking. You know, part of it is the acting, part of it was the writing, part of it was the way the plot actually progressed. You know, if somebody were to take the bones of that and revisit it later, which I'm sure they probably will, there's a great story in there. There is tragedy, there is, you know, epicness, there's friendship, camaraderie, betrayal. There's all kinds of great stuff. It's just a matter of getting it right. And I feel like this is essentially like the prequels, where there's great stuff here. This is an amazing subject to play with. You know, elements of this are a fantastic kit, but other elements are kind of like Hayden Christensen's acting, where it's like, where did that come from? What were you thinking? You know, maybe take a few more takes. So here we go, officially here. Kitty Hawk's Su-17 is the Hayden Christensen of models, apparently. So with that, I'm going to set this bastard down. I am going to call it a night, and tomorrow we will come back and let's see what we'll be doing. So we did this tonight. Oh, look, we get the markings guidance in the middle. It's nice. So moving on, Kitty Hawk does the trumpeter thing where they would have you add the canopy and all that. We will probably move on to the flare dispensers and things like that and get some of these little bits and bobs out of the way. But what I would really like to get to, I can turn the instruction pages, is to start thinking about the wing assemblies. So we'll see. I'm actually heading out on vacation day after tomorrow, so I'm going to have a bit of an enforced break. Good time to do all the editing of all this damn footage I'm taking. But I'm going to push as far as I can tomorrow night. So that's that, and see you on the next part of this build. Later.